from various organizations associated with municipal government to present information on the pros and cons of the proposed change. So at this time, and I forgot my bio, excuse me. I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Scott Wrighton. Chicago native Scott Wrighton is an independent governance consultant, trainer, and occasional author. His career is dedicated to resourceful public management and effective governance. He holds a bachelor's degree in history and government from Sterling College in Sterling, Kansas, a master's degree in history from the University of Hawaii, and a master's in public administration, city management from the University of Kansas. He has worked in the field of government management for more than 40 years in Kansas, Georgia, Missouri, the Republic of India, and Illinois. More than 30 of these years as a city manager. Wrighton's consulting specialties include strategic planning, organizational development, executive coaching, designing and implementing governance and structural change, teaching government ethics, concepts and strategies, and local government performance management and measurement. From 2003 to 2009, Scott served on the faculty of the University of Georgia's Carl Vinson Institute of Government. In this capacity, he taught government courses and provided local governance consulting services to elected and appointed officials in the United States and abroad. From 2009 until 2014, Scott served as city manager of new private city built from scratch in Maharashtra, India. It was intended to serve as a model of how new urban areas can be created and governed in South Asia as a response to the rapid urbanization of India. From 2014 to 2019, Scott served as city manager of Streator, Illinois, and from 2019 to 2024, he was city manager of Decatur, Illinois. Scott has published several articles and a book on effective local government supervision. Most of his publications concern the management, governance, and sustainable development of this public sector. In 2023, authored and published Article 5, Preparing American Government Amid Debilitating Partisan Strife. Please welcome Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd have preferred, here's a man who needs no introduction, so he's not going to get one, Scott. But that's what they wanted to do, is that long bio. I've worked in city management for many years, also taught others how to do it, and worked overseas as well. And from that experience, and this is really how I want to start this presentation this evening, from that experience I will tell you that it's been my experience that regardless of the form of government that a local government uses, if everybody gets along, if everybody's on the same page, and they're all working on behalf of whatever the city's objectives are, its strategic plan is, if we're all one big happy family moving in the same direction, it doesn't matter what the form of government is. You can work with any kind of form of government, and believe me, working in India and the South, I've seen them all. If everybody's together, we just find a way to work it out. But that's not always how it works out, because not everybody's on the same page. And so ultimately what the evaluation becomes is, okay, since sadly, not everybody's always on the same page, not everybody's working together with a big group hug, when that's not the case, which form of government provides the best safety net? Which one buffers the delivery of local services so that citizens don't suffer from whatever dysfunction might be happening at the governing body level or at the local level? And that's really the question that I think is being put before you, stated in a different way, because if everybody's together, the form works just fine. So here in Illinois, the Illinois Constitution of 1970, which is the fourth constitution that Illinois has had and the one we currently operate under, and Illinois statutes, called the Municipal Code, provide that although there are more than 3 forms of government in the United States, and you're going to hear my colleague talk about some of them, under Illinois law you can only have one of 3. The commission form, which you have now, where the members of the city commission are also elected as department heads to supervise their division, their department, or whatever, their sector of the local government. The strong mayor aldermanic form, which is not a consideration here in Oglesby, but it's where the elected mayor is both the head of the city council, in other words, head of the legislative part of government, and simultaneously the executive of the government. In other words, he supervises the departments as well. So both the service delivery, the administration, and the legislative piece, the policy-making piece, are both under the mayor. The city of Chicago is a somewhat, more than somewhat, corrupt form of strong mayor aldermanic form of government. The vast majority of the suburbs around Chicago in the 6-county metropolitan area operate under the third form, which is the council manager form. So you have to have one of these three, and to go from one to the other, regardless of which one you're going to or from, requires under Illinois law that you conduct a referendum. So the fundamental difference between the three, and to make it really simple, is that in the strong mayor aldermanic form, all of the power, if that's the right word, of the administration of government is concentrated in the mayor. He has to go to the city council for major policy changes and big decisions, but day-to-day management of the city as well as the running of city council meetings all rests with a strong mayor. In the council manager form, the legislative function is separated some more from the administrative form. So in the council manager form, you still have a mayor. The mayor is the chief spokesman of the city, the chief policy maker of the city, and directs the long-range strategic planning of the city council. I mean, that's what I think most citizens really elect their elected officials to do, is to make sure that the city in 5 years, 10 years is a better city than it was now, and that some of these changes take place, and then leave the day-to-day administration and the execution of policy decisions enacted by the city council to a person who's trained to run these multi-million-dollar organizations that we call cities. So in the council manager form, that power is more dispersed. You know, our founding fathers pushed off an abuse of power called King George III, and so they were very attentive to making sure that the forms of government they replaced it with had dispersed power so that no one person had too much power. And the council manager form of government is one way of doing that, where the legislative power rests with the elected city council. They hire a manager, and the manager simply executes the policies of the council. The commission form arguably disperses power too, in a sense, because the 5 divisions of the departments and service delivery are dispersed between those 5 members of the city council. But it is the least popular of forms of government, in part because it's somewhat, that dispersal can mean that there's a failure to get along sometimes. Does anybody know what the most highest fatality natural disaster in American history was? It was the hurricane that struck Galveston, Texas in September of 1900. That was before they had seawalls and before we had the National Weather Service to tell us that deadly storms were coming. And it came ashore on Galveston, which is an island, you know, just south of Houston, and 3,500 people died in a couple of days. Galveston had a commission form of government. That tragedy was bad enough, but in the weeks and months that followed that disaster, the city commission members couldn't get along and fought over what the recovery effort should look like, and the death toll got higher as a result of that. It was a tragedy, and the total death count ended up being closer to 6,000.